it never happens exactly the way you plan. It just doesn't. But if you just say, this is the mission and this is how much time we have to accomplish the mission, or retreat, because sometimes you have to retreat. I don't give a shit who you are. Sometimes you have to call it. Yeah. You do. And again, that might be counter to what a lot of people say, but I'm sorry, this is life. Yeah. It's not you can't win every time. And they're like, oh yeah, burn the boats, just go until you die. It's like, no, sometimes you need to live to fight another day, to do another mission.
Real business owner.
Whatever your situation is currently is not your forever situation.
That's really what real business owners is, man. Like, we don't care where you come from, where are you going?
Our goal and our job is to reduce the mistakes that you have to make or the money that you have to lose.
You want to be an entrepreneur, you want to be successful, don't give up.
You learn, adjust, and continue to move forward.
Welcome back to another episode of Real Business Owners with myself, Trevor Cowley. Today we have Austin LeFevre. Did I do it right? Did it make me sound smart?
Yeah. I mean, you could sound hit and go, LeFevre. LeFevre.
It's good to have you, man.
Yeah,
I'm excited for the episode. So, man, I don't even know where to start to kind of crack you open because, just in chatting with you over the last 30 minutes or so, there's just so many different areas in your life or experiences, I guess, right, that you've had that led you to this business that you currently have. That's this little gold mine, right? And I want to jump right into that, but at the exact same time, I also want people to understand, your background a little bit more so that they can maybe put two and two together and say, okay, well, no wonder why he found a gold mine, because it's not just like he tripped over something and it smacked him in the face. You're a smart guy.
Yes and no.
And you figured it out because of, you're smart. And so if you will, tell them a little bit about yourself in terms of, the military background. One, why did you choose the military? Because usually that's a big life-altering decision for a young person. Maybe you were a G.I. Joe freak or something as a kid. I don't know.
Kind of all of the above.
Yeah. So, yeah. And he came in here strapped. So he's armed and dangerous right now. So I'm watching what I say.
Well, I still remember, actually, I did have G.I. Joes, and I remember my dad got super pissed one day because he ran him over with the lawnmower. Yeah. And one of them, the leg got chopped off. Yeah. And so then my brother and I, we would just act like, oh, he just got it blown off.
Yeah, that's a real military
imagination. Yeah. And anyway, I think I always had a feeling that I was going to be in the military someday, which is, I don't know why. Maybe it was G.I. Joes. G.I. Joes were huge when I was a kid, and I remember watching them, the cartoon, and then playing with the action figures. I actually got to go back farther. So when I was 16, actually I think I was probably 17. I was in high school, and this is the first time I really got a taste of being an entrepreneur. And anyway, I was applying for a job with this guy who was in my church, and he owned this computer company called Computers Inc., where he ran, wires through the ceiling to do internet and other things. And I was like, man, I want to get that job. It's like $14 an hour,
That's big. That's big money.
Big money back then, man. Big money. And so
it's not even minimum wage in California.
So he says to me, he's like, all right, Austin, if you want this job, I don't do interviews. I give you a task and then I see how you do. Okay, what's the task? He's like, I have a peach tree in my backyard. I want you to pick every single peach off that tree. Okay. He's like, all right, be there Saturday at 9 a.m. So I got there 9 a.m. and dude, this tree was huge. This was not a small peach tree.
Bro, when you were saying that, I have an orchard.
Really?
And I have big, massive, very aged peach trees.
And how much do they
produce? And so when you're saying pick this, it doesn't seem like a lot, even to the listeners or whatever, where somebody says, yeah, sure, I'll pick peaches. But one full, big, massive peach tree, that's a job, bro.
Especially for
that's a big job.
Teenage kid. Yeah. And teenage kids typically like to slack off. Yeah. I was no, stranger to that.
Yeah.
But I was determined to get this job because I had that motivation. I was like, no, I want that job. Yeah. So I was there all day, not taking breaks. I was just climbing, getting cut up, climbing to the top, getting everything I could. Finally, I was like, there's no way I'm going to finish before dark. So I called two of my buddies and I said, hey, look,
help me out.
Help me out. I need somebody who can help me out, whether it's giving me a boost to get a little bit higher or, whatever. Anyway, we finish, and it's late evening, afternoon, and he comes out. His name's Jim. Jim comes out, and he's looking around, and he's like, "Holy crap!"
Didn't expect it.
He's like, "I don't see one peach left on that tree." I was like, "You told me to get all of them." He's like, "I know, but every time I've ever hired a high school kid to do this, they always left at least 40 or 50 on there for me to eat." and I was like, "Well, you gave me instructions."
Yeah, they'll go back quick.
And so he hired me, and that was like my first like real feeling of like, here's the challenge.
Here's the task.
If you do it, you get what you want.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow.
And that kind of took me down that first kind of entrepreneur road. That wasn't an entrepreneurial experience. That was just to get a job, but still that victory.
Yes, there was something that you wanted, and you had a hurdle that you had to overcome, and you figured out a way to do it.
Yeah.
Right? Calling the homies. When did the military come in?
So after high school, I served a mission for my church, came back, met my wife really quickly. We got married, and then I actually got in Dixie here in St. George. So we actually lived here in St. George. Yeah, it's what is it, Utah Tech now. So we were here for about a year. Well, guess what year it was? It was 2008. So as soon as we got married, everything crashed. Yeah. And my wife was, she graduated cosmetology school before we got married. So she was bringing home the bacon. Like I was doing 17 credit hours just trying to do school as fast as possible.
What were you going to school for at the time?
Business.
Okay.
Yeah. And then she got handed a notice from her salon. They're like, "Hey, we're closing our doors tomorrow." And I was like, "We got to figure something else out. This is just not." And I went to an event where there was a Army recruiter. And he said, "Hey, have you ever thought about the military?" And I said, "Yeah, as a matter of fact, my whole life I felt like at some point I would serve in the military." He said, "Well, why don't you come by and let's chat?" So I went to the recruiting office, which used to be over by the mall, and he wasn't there.
Yeah. It was down from Arctic Circle. Yeah, I went in there.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he wasn't there. So then I talked to like a Marine guy, and he, I don't know, he just seemed a little too much for me. I was just like, "All right, man, calm down," Finally, I told my mom I was thinking about it. I said, "Hey, I'm thinking about it." And she said, "Well, hey, our neighbor was Air Force for 30 years, and he says that the Air Force has the best benefits for families, so maybe you should go talk to the Air Force recruiter." So I did, and this guy knew what he was doing, man. He took my wife and I to Chili's. We were starving students. I mean, Chili's was a treat to us. We felt like we were
rich.
Oh, we were getting VIP'd. Yeah. And he's like, "Order whatever you want. You guys, dessert, whatever you guys want, order it,
Wow.
And man, he just reeled it in. And
you were signing papers by the end of dinner?
Pretty much the next day.
Yeah.
My wife and I were like, "Okay, let's do this." And they put me in what's called DEP, the Delayed Entry Program. So because I spoke Croatian, Bosnian, and Serbian, they were like, "Hey, we would love to bring you in as a linguist." The problem was we had just, we basically were fighting in the Middle East. So Slavic-based languages just weren't in high demand.
Yeah.
So they asked me if I wanted to learn Arabic or Urdu, and I was like, "Nah, I don't." So anyway, yeah, we were in that delayed program, hoping that a spot would open up for those languages, and it never did. I just told the recruiter, I said, "Hey, what else is available?" And he's like, "Well, we do have this job in intelligence." There were some challenges there, especially even at basic training. I mean, the first day they bring you in, it's like 2 a.m. and
trying to break you down a little bit.
They spend about 5 weeks breaking you. And that's their whole job, is just to break you. And after that 5th week, they take you to the obstacle course, where they give you like a 60-pound ruck.
Yeah.
They have you run about 3 miles to the course. The course is 3 or 4 miles, I can't remember, but with obstacles. And you have to stay running or jogging to each one. And if somebody's on the obstacle, you have to stay and jog in place, And then they get you, you put your ruck on, and you run back to base. And it was middle of I think it was the end of August. So it was
brutal.
End of August, Texas heat. It was terrible. And I mean, we were all dehydrated. We were just like, "This sucks," But I'm telling you, that day that we made it back, from that day forward, if you made it through that, they then started telling you, "You can do anything. You're unbeatable. nobody can kill you. You can do whatever you need to do. You know, you can accomplish every mission. Anything that gets put in front of you, like everything was just reinforcing you're a freaking soldier, you know?
Yeah.
Those first 5 weeks, they're just, everything you do is wrong. And it breaks down your belief and your confidence to a level where you're like, you're just terrified that you're always going to make a mistake. But then after they get you through the ringer,
that's cool.
Yeah, so they kind of break you down to then build you up and make you think and act the way they know.
Well, why invest time and energy and effort into an individual to try to build them up if they're going to break so easily under just any circumstance, right? So let's put them in a pressure cooker. Let's see if they'll break, and if they don't break, then they're worth the time, energy, and effort to build them up, because now we have somebody, right?
Right.
And so that's got to be, the concept behind it, because why build somebody up that the first time that they face any adversity or somebody yelling at them, or that they're going to fold anyways, right?
And there was a lot that did. I will say this, that when I got out and went to my technical training, because after basic, they'll basically send you to whatever your career field is. And mine was still in Texas, the training. There's an intelligence base there that they train pretty much all intelligence, whether you're from Army, Air Force, or other. And when I got there, they actually made me a red rope, which that basically puts you in charge of all the airmen in the entire complex. So I was over like 200 airmen, and man, it was a challenge. It was a real challenge.
What was the hardest thing about it?
Just dealing with kids that are 17, 18, 19 years old, and you're trying to...
How old were you at that time?
I was 22, so I was a little older.
Yeah.
But yeah, even getting into the training and everything, it was very intense. I mean, I was in training for almost a full year, and they would do crazy tests on you. For instance, they had us memorize every single country and major city and major body of water, sea, everything. You only had 24 hours to basically memorize the entire globe.
Wow.
And I was like, dude, this sucks. Like, this is, and what's crazy, I only missed 2 out of the whole thing. It's like, once you're under the gun, you just kind of...
You perform.
And and they get you into a level of confidence where you're like, hey, I can do this. And I can make this work.
If I put the right focus and intent, and if I really want it bad enough, I could absorb this information.
Yeah.
And I could regurgitate.
It's insane what the brain is capable of.
I believe that.
The brain is absolutely... And even when I got out, I got even more interested in human intelligence.
Yeah.
Because I found that human beings are very readable.
Yeah.
We have a lot of tells. And
well, to your point, that this is why large corporations or companies, they know us better than we know ourselves.
Yes.
They spend tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars studying human behavior so that they could pull this lever and this reaction happens, right? Yeah. If we show you this, we already know the likelihood of this is going to happen. They do this in grocery stores.
Yeah.
Okay. So grocery stores, just so that you understand, and everybody picture the grocery store that you go to right now, right? When you walk into a grocery store, usually right in the front, off to the right, what is normally there? Like what section is that when you walk into a grocery store off to your right-hand side towards the front?
I mean, in my grocery store, which is, well, I'm not talking about the one in Tropic because that one's small.
Yeah.
So in Springville, right when you walk into the right is, well, there's guest services, but then you have your produce.
Boom, you said it right there, produce, okay? Yeah. So you've got your fruits, you have your veggies, your good options are immediately available to you right when you walk into a grocery store, okay? And the statistic on it is that humans make one good decision per 10 decisions that they make. The other 9 are going to be bad. So what they do is they lay out the good decisions for you immediately and say, go ahead, get that bushel of apples or that bunch of bananas, get the head of lettuce, so you can go fuck off the rest of your grocery list.
Check off
because you're more likely to grab the chips. You're more likely to grab the ice cream. Why? Because you feel so good about yourself that you made a couple good decisions that now your brain gives you the non-guilty feeling for picking up the ice cream.
Yeah.
Right? But if you don't have anything healthy in your cart and you just had ice cream and you had chips and you had candy, all the junk, you'd kind of feel like a piece of shit.
Yeah.
So it's just manipulation.
Sure.
Right? And so let's give them some good options right in front of them. And then the rest of the 90% of the grocery store is going to be terrible. But that 10% that's good is going to be right up front because they want you to get your good decisions out of the way so that you feel good about making all your other bad ones.
So it's mind-blowing how much human beings are creatures of habit.
Yes.
As much as we don't do the same things over and over, there are specific things that we oftentimes do not change. There was a study done even about human beings that when you work in an office building with a multi-stall bathroom, you try to use the exact same stall or urinal every single time of the first one that you ever used.
Yeah, probably without even thinking about it. It's just what it is.
We do that.
Once
you have a validation or something that tells you it was a success, why would you change it? And so they just keep going to that same spot, It's
almost like back in the day, if you were a caveman and hunting, why would you stop going to the honey hole?
Yeah.
Right?
Why go fish in another pond if the fish are here?
If the fish are right there.
Yeah.
Why go piss in another stall?
There's merit to that.
Yeah.
There is merit to that. At the same time, it blows my mind when people will order the same thing every single time they go to a restaurant. They're like, why? That's the thing I like. Why would I go for something?
That's what I do.
I can't.
I do that.
I mean, I will to an extent on some things, but for the most part, I like to try different things. I like to mix it up. And I think part of it is because when we track people, we look for patterns. And if we have patterns, we can predictively analyze what they're going to do. And once we can do that, we can pinpoint where they're going to be and how to basically handle them, And I think for me, like even sometimes I refuse to drive the same streets or path to work.
Yeah.
Just in case someone's following me in a 476 populated town, which it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's like, who's going to follow me? Like Mr. Rogers, 87 years old. Like, who cares? What is he going to do?
I would say if people look at their life right now, 90% of it's very repetitive and it's all habit-based.
Yeah.
So the moment that you wake up in the morning, what is it that you do? It's going to be the same thing every day, right? Whether you stretch, whether you reach for your phone, whether you get up and go to the bathroom, if that's the first thing that you do, it's going to be the same thing. So if you start your day the exact same way, the next decision is just going to fall in line with yesterday's previous decision. So if you get up and you go to the bathroom and then you walk to your kitchen, wiping your eye boogers out of your eye, making your cup of coffee, my guess is you probably did that yesterday and the day before and the day before and the day before. And so where does the pattern stop, right? So you then when you get your coffee, you probably sit there and you scroll if that's what you normally do. You'll do it again tomorrow, right? And you're going to scroll if that's what you normally do. Then from that, you're going to, okay, I go get in the shower. Then when you get in the shower, you brush your teeth either before the shower, in the shower, or after the shower, right? You put your face lotion on before or after your deodorant, and you're going to do it the exact same time. I'm not going to put my deodorant on one day and then face lotion. It'll be the face lotion, then I have my habits, right? And I know exactly what my habits are. That's what's so crazy about it is that the majority of people live the exact same life over and over. The question is, are the habits and the life that you're living leading where you want to go?
Yeah.
That's the biggest question. So if we already know that we're creatures of habit and we're going to live pretty much almost 80 to 90% of the same day over and over, ask yourself, if in 3 years I keep doing what I'm doing, will I be heavier, more overweight? Will I be out of shape? Will I have more money? Like what will my relationship be healthier or will it be worse?
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, for me, like look at our closets, not a lot of like every so often we'll change our shoes or this, that, the other. Guess what? I like wearing the same hat. Why? Because it fits a certain way and I like the way that it fits.
Well, it's funny because this is a great point actually to explain humanity in a way.
Yeah.
We know that, hey, if we do this, it's not going to kill us.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So therefore,
there's safety and comfort in it. Yeah.
And there's a lot of cognitive dissonance when you do something different or out of the normal pattern. And so when and this is why entrepreneurs struggle though, is because they live a certain life and they want to get to this life.
Yeah.
But the cognitive dissonance of being able to do something you don't want to do because it doesn't feel good and it doesn't, give you the feelings that you had before, which feel safe. They feel right because they're safe, but they're not. It's not true. It's false sense of security.
Dude, you hit on something though that was super interesting that I want to dig into a little bit, because that what you touched on will be the hardest thing that anybody will ever do in their life, which is go up against the version of them that they are today.
Yes.
So you have to act in a manner in which you're not in order to change.
Yes.
Right? And so if you acting in a manner that you're not, it's going to feel uncomfortable, right? If I normally get up and do X, but today I've made a point that I'm going to go do this thing instead, right? If I normally get up at 9 a.m. and then go, start my coffee, but if I decide the next day I'm going to get up at 6 a.m. and I'm going to go for a run instead, like everything is so out of balance and out of whack. When you first wake up, you're just like, okay, well, this is the last thing that I want to do. And usually it's the last thing that you want to do that's going to create the change that you're actually looking for. The problem is there's that discomfort that you have to go through, which the majority of people just won't go through it.
So here's what's cool though. My training has actually provided me a lot of skills for that exact thing.
Yeah.
Because the military has almost perfected making people uncomfortable and still accomplish the mission.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of people in everyday life, they don't know how to do it. Like, what's the approach? How do I solve that?
Yeah.
I bet there's people probably going to listen to this podcast. They're like, yeah, how do I get out of that? How do I stop doing the old me so I can become the new me? There was a study done on mice and drowning, okay? And I don't remember the exact time, but it was crazy. They would basically put a mouse in water where it couldn't get out, right? Just in a bowl or whatever. And just as it was about to drown, they would pull it out of the water. And then once its heart rate came down and it got comfortable, they'd put it back in. And the first time it was going to give up was within 3 or 4 hours, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Once it got put back in, it lasted another 32 hours.
Yeah.
Because it had hope that it was going to come out, that it was going to be rescued.
As long as I survive long enough, and if I keep doing this, somebody's going to pull me out.
So what do we learn from that? When I first got to brand makers, which we haven't got to this part of my story, but when I got to brand makers, which is it's a sales job, right? Yeah. It's $10.99. You get paid. You eat what you kill. Yeah. So there's no money until you sell.
Yeah.
I remember our CEO, this guy has been a mentor of mine from day one. I love this man. Like, he has just always been able to teach me more things. But I remember on the first day of training, he stood up on our table in the conference room and he's like, Austin, your life is going to suck. It's going to suck. It's going to be horrible. But I need you to give me 2 years. Give me 2 years and I promise you'll make more money than you've ever made in your entire life. And I was like, okay. So I went home. I told my wife, I was like, hey, James basically said our life is going to suck for 2 years. But he said, if I make it to the end of 2 years, he promises we'll make more money than we've ever made. And I said, I'm good with that. So I put a stamp on it. I said, okay, I got 2 years.
You bet.
Hell or high water, no matter how bad it is, I'm doing this for a minimum of 2 years. And if it doesn't work by that point, okay, we'll go look for something else. My second full year at Brand Makers sold 1.3 million. Made more money than I ever made my entire life. 4 times what I was making when I was in the military.
Yeah.
And it's because I had already established, it's like, look, I don't care what happens. Like, I'm in. Yeah. I've already made that. I don't even have to think about it.
I'll pay the price.
And that's what a lot of people do though, is they set the goal, but they don't set the parameter of how long am I in before I'm willing to say, okay, enough's enough.
Yeah.
And some people are like, don't burn the boats. Yeah. I'm like, that's not always the best approach, because sometimes you really do suck at that thing.
Yeah.
And that's okay. If you learn that that's not for you, it's okay to change, but at least give it a real effort and go talk to somebody who's done it. Go talk to somebody and say, hey, how long did it take you?
Yeah.
Let them help you establish a timeline where it's like, because it's the same when we do mission planning to go perform a mission, it never works. The mission plan, it's never perfect.
Yeah.
You can plan for every scenario that comes to your mind. It never happens exactly the way you plan. It just doesn't. But if you just say, this is the mission and this is how much time we have to accomplish the mission, or retreat, because sometimes you have to retreat. I don't give a shit who you are. Sometimes you have to call it.
Yeah.
You do. And again, that might be counter to what a lot of people say, but I'm sorry, this is life.
Yeah.
It's not you can't win every time. And they're like, oh yeah, burn the boats, just go until you die. It's like, no, sometimes you need to live to fight another day, to do another mission.
Well, there's always adjustments that need to be made, right?
That's what I'm saying. Put the time.
It doesn't necessarily mean that your goals of wanting to be successful have to change. The end goal is still the end goal, but how you get there, you've got to adapt. You've got to adjust, right? Like it might not be this business. In a lot of cases, the majority of times when people start their first business, that's just a vehicle to another business. They just don't know it yet, right? So that gets them in the game, and then they start making money. Maybe it's a car detail business and it's a young kid, and it's teaching them a lot about entrepreneurship, and they're saving some money, and then eventually a new opportunity gets presented to the more valuable version of them that they are 4 years down the road, and then they start pursuing that thing, handing the business off to somebody else, or they sell that lawn mowing business that they started out of high school, or the accounts that they have, right? Like there's adjustments that need to be made. If you started a business at 20 years old, my guess is that's not going to be the business that you'll have at 40 years old. That's just your barrier of entry to get into the game, and business will evolve. It'll get bigger, over the course of time. And
Well, and this is where I think there needs to be more training for entrepreneurs on the idea that once you have the timeline set, then it's tasks.
Yeah.
You focus on your habits, your tasks.
Yes.
You're not giving up. So might as well do. It's like the reason I go to a gym is because I know once I'm there, I'm like, well, I'm not going to I might as well work out. It's like, I'm here. I might as well do it.
Yeah.
Because trust me, there are plenty of days where I don't want to work out.
Yeah.
There are plenty.
Yeah.
But if I'm there, what am I going to just sit there on my phone? No, that I would feel just stupid about that, So putting yourself in a sense of understanding, okay, I have this timeline. Why don't I just give it my everything for this amount of time? And if it doesn't work, then maybe I'll look at or if I saw some, like progress, maybe I'll extend the timeline,
Well, we did that with this podcast. We said when we started it, let's give it 3 to 5 years. Let's not, just like any business, you're not going to measure the results of a business in 1 month and be like, this business just doesn't work.
Yes.
You've got to give something enough time to show its worth, right? But you also have to give it 100% of your effort during that time period. There has to be an exchange. And usually if you want something greater than what the average person has, you're going to have to go through something a lot worse than what the average person has gone through.
100%.
So you talked about, hey, this mentor said the first 2 years are going to suck at this sales job, but you're going to make more money than you've ever made. So there was an exchange there. I'll live less than the average person for 2 years so that I can have more than the average person 2 years from now. The problem is the majority of people aren't willing to do that step down in order to create an opportunity for a step up.
Well, most people give up in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
2 weeks.
I mean, it's just
they don't give it time. They don't.
I mean, your brain likes endings, dude.
Yeah.
So like if
That's a good point.
Like it just does. Like let's think about this. People are okay dealing with the pain or suffering of doing whatever they do because they have a vacation planned in 3 months. There's an end to it. There's something that's coming up that's going to relieve them, which allows them to continue to show up and survive another day in this miserable job or whatever that they absolutely hate because they have something to look forward to. The suffering will end.
Right.
When I told people that I was going to run 10 miles a day every single day, and people would start asking, okay, for how long? Their brain immediately asked for how long.
Yes.
Okay. And then
how long are you going to suffer?
And I said, there is no end. That's what I want. I said every day.
Yeah.
Like, because people wanted me to say, hey, yeah, I'm going to run 10 miles a day for 30 days. Because we want to know that there's an end to our suffering.
Yes.
Right? That's just what it is.
It's
and
true.
that allows us to hold on for a little bit longer. This goes back to your mouse story. There was an end to his suffering when he got pulled out.
Yes.
When he got put back in, he was willing to suffer for an extended period of time, way more than the original time.
10 times as much.
Because he felt as though that it would come to an end. So I'll endure for a longer period of time because I know eventually it will end.
Well, and I think you ultimately want to get to the point where you no longer need timetables. But that's what I'm saying. A lot of people
Correct.
Like you're saying,
you give your brain maybe an ending, but as you go through the process, you just start living in the process, and then time passes, and that end point that you were originally looking for, that target, ends up being nothing by the time you get there. But at least when you started, you tricked your brain to give it 100% effort because there was an end.
This is why 75 Hard has taken the country by storm.
Yeah.
Because it gave them a hard goal with a timetable and said, there is no breaking the rules.
Yeah.
If you break the rules, you go back to day one.
Yeah.
So people did it. But if I remember right, you took that challenge and you kept going.
Yeah.
Why?
Because I don't want to be like everybody else.
See, you have gotten to the point where you no longer need to end suffering. You embrace suffering as part of your life and accept it as, this is why I'm here. I'm here to take it and just keep going.
Yeah.
You know?
I find peace and fulfillment in it.
And there's very few people who get to that level. Very few. I like, this is why David Goggins, the guy is, he seems psychotic.
Yeah.
The things he goes after, it seems psychotic, but it's not.
So
he has done the stuff where he set, timelines, or he set a stamp and was like, okay, I'm only going to do it this far. But then when he beat it,
the goalpost keeps going back.
The goal. Okay,
it's just
so
never
this
ending.
Brings me to a good point. Okay, so in my real estate business, I've had a lot of people work for me.
Yeah.
Some of them, it just hasn't panned out. And I had a conversation with one of them not that long ago. And he said to me, I just felt like you kept moving the goalpost. And I kind of just sat there and thought about it. And I was like, yeah, you're probably right. I probably did.
Yeah.
Because that's how I live. That's how every time that goalpost gets reached, I'm like, okay, next one. Like, let's move it out a little farther. Let's go out a little farther. And that's the thing, is like, he wasn't at that level where he could accept that.
Yeah.
And so he ended up quitting.
He wanted an end.
He wanted an end.
He wanted to know that once we hit this point, we're good.
And I don't blame him for it.
Yeah.
He's like 5-6 years younger than me.
Yeah.
He's had different experiences, like, I don't think down on him at all. I don't judge him for it. In fact, it was good for him to point that out to me, because I realized this is why people call me intense. They're always like, Austin's just so intense to work for. It's like, well, I don't like mediocrity.
Yeah.
I don't like settling. I never have. In fact, I told my wife this year, I was like, hey, we're not going to invest in anything this year. Let's keep our 24 doors. Let's invest in those, like maybe add some hot tubs, do some other things. January 10th, somebody calls me up. Hey, you want to buy this boutique motel? Well, you know where I am right now. I said I'm not buying anything this year. Well, take a look at it. Happened to be a freaking home run deal. Yeah. I was just like, okay, yeah, I'd be stupid not to do this, But at the same time, I was like, okay, well, how can I do this deal but not raise my stress level? Because that was one of the things I wanted to kind of
get under control.
Yeah, get under control, because I got 4 kids. Yeah. And my kids are getting older. My oldest is turning 14 this year. And it's like, look, I already deployed, I already did a lot of things where I was away from my family. I want to take this time, and I've earned it, like I've set us up to where we can do that. Yeah. And anyway, but I pulled in some of my students and I just said, hey guys, I know this isn't exactly what you were looking for, but it'll basically give you a $60,000 return per year. And all you have to do is invest this much, and they were just like, tell me where to sign. Yeah. Yeah. And so it's like, I didn't have to have the burden of doing it all on my own. I didn't have to have the burden of coming up with the cash and doing all the things, And so, and then I went to my manager, who manages all my rentals right now. I said, hey, look, man, you've been working your ass off. You've been doing great work for us. You've been solving problems. You do stuff without even asking me. You just get it done. I was like, how would you like to own 10% of this boutique hotel? I was like, if you take this on under the umbrella, I'll give you 10%. He was like, done. And he was texting me on the way up here. And he's like, hey man, I already got a meeting lined up with our channel manager. I got this lined up for the inspection. I got, all this. I'm like,
getting it done, taking ownership over it.
Well,
right?
And I told him, I said, look, if you stick with me and you just work alongside me, I'm going to tell you right now, there's going to be days where you're going to want to punch me in the face.
Yeah.
Like, I guarantee it. At some point, you're going to be like, dude, this guy. But I'm telling you, if you stick with me, my heart is always in the right place. And I'm looking after you just like you're a wingman in the trenches with me.
Yeah.
And I told him that. And dude, he has just been there every step of the way. And every time I've lost my cool, I would say to him like, hey man, that wasn't you. That was just me losing my cool.
Yeah.
It'll happen sometimes. And I apologize for that.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm just processing this stuff. And he's like, you're good, man. You already warned me. You told me this was going to happen. Yeah. And so he's like, I expected it and whatever. And so but see, I've had others that they were like, I'm out.
Oh, yeah.
I'm out.
Yeah. Too intense, can't handle it.
And I look at them and they had the same opportunities to own 10% of a multi-million-dollar company. Yeah. And, they chose differently because it was too much for them.
Dude, literally the amount of stress that an individual can bear will determine how far an individual can go. It just sucks. It is what it is, though. Like, I don't know any other way around it. Maybe being born into, rich is cool. But like, this game is very, very difficult. And it's far more of a mental battle than anything else. And so when I got to a point where I was at a low point making good money, I'm like, okay, it's my mind. Yeah. It's my mind that's the problem, because logically, everything else around me is fine. I make good money. My house is paid. Like, I have a great wife. So, my kids are awesome. I don't want to interrupt
you, but I want to ask you this. So at that moment where you finally said, it's my mind, before that, did you blame circumstances and people around you?
It was probably 4 or 5 years ago, something like that. I came home and told my wife I wanted a divorce because I blamed the stress and the pressure and the burdens that I was feeling on her. Right? It had to be something outside of me. It could not have been me because I'm strong.
Yep.
Right? Because I'm a business owner.
You're a man.
Because I make good money. Like, it's something else that's causing stress and pressure that I can offload or get rid of, but not my business.
I feel that.
And
so
it's
much.
not upgrading me because I'm already good enough, because I'm already outperforming the majority of people. I'm already in the top 1%. So what is it that I can offload? And guess what? I went and got a rental property and sat in it by myself. And the only thing I thought about was my wife and my kids. Within 5 months, I was back at the house. I didn't date anybody else. I didn't do any of that, none of that. And I realized at that point, I'm like, okay, well, sometimes when we deal with stress or pressure, we're looking for somebody else to blame it on. And at that point, you might make a bad decision based upon the fact that you're just not man enough, or you're just not mentally strong enough to bear the load that you're currently bearing, and you have to upgrade yourself in order to continue down that path. And if you don't do it, you will literally destroy your life in the process.
What you said is practically gospel, because I can't tell you how many hours I spent blaming other people, other circumstances for my lack of success or my lack of hitting a goal or whatever it was. Or even if I hit it, but I was miserable, it wasn't my fault. Why would I blame me? Is it my fault?
Yeah. You're hitting your targets.
But see, I think that's what got me to my low too.
Yeah.
Is I told you I had the best sales year I'd ever had, sold 1.3 million, got my little award, went on stage, hoorah.
Yeah.
And then come second week of January, I'm in my office with my gun, wanting to just end it.
Yeah.
Just want to be done.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't do it. Thanks be to God that I just was like, no, I promised I wouldn't do that. I lost my best friend that way. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
Came home, saw my daughter, as soon as I opened the door, my youngest, she's 3-4 years old. She's, Daddy,
Yeah.
And I realized like, it's my problem.
Yeah.
I'm the one, it's my mental state.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because now, so I've been obsessed with the book, The 4 Agreements, the last probably 2-3 months.
Impeccable with your
be impeccable with your word. Don't assume things. Do your best. Just very, very simple things. And as I've done that, and when we talk about being impeccable with your word, we're not talking about just honesty. Yes, that's part of it. It's also talking about refusing to say negative things about people, refusing to blame other people for your problems.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how I can literally read where someone's at as an entrepreneur based on how much shit they talk about other people.
Yeah.
Especially people who have worked for them.
Well,
and you know
all that is.
You know how I know? Because I've done that.
Yeah. Well, all we are, this vessel, this mind, all it is a projector. If I put X movie in a projector and it projects onto the screen, if I put in Sandlot, it's going to play Sandlot, right? Like if I'm internally putting that movie in there, it's going to project what's in there, right? And so if I am negative internally, what's the canvas? The world and other people. Yes. I'm projecting what I feel, what's in me onto the world. I will see the negative in you and I'm going to blame it on you, or I'm going to see the negative in the world. And don't get me wrong, there are negative things and there are negative people, but where's the majority of your attention and your awareness? The question is if you blame that person or you blame the world, will it impact or improve your life in a positive way? That's the question.
Yes.
So if we place blame externally, am I now looking around at my life and all of a sudden it's enhanced? The answer is no.
Yeah.
If I look at myself in the mirror and I say, okay, I need to do something, that's the only way to enhance your life is to enhance yourself, period. Yes. Because then when you make this better and it feels good in your body and mind, guess what? You're projecting good out into the world and you make the world a better place just by becoming a better version of yourself.
So I was just thinking, I watched a weird documentary not that long ago with, he was a whistleblower about doing work on UFOs.
Wasn't the Snowden dude or whatever? That was the cell phone guy or something.
Nope. And I got a lot of stories about that too. But gosh, I can't think of his name. Bob Lazar. Right. Okay, so Bob Lazar was basically a propulsion expert. He worked on rockets and propulsion. And they brought him in because they apparently recovered some alien spacecraft and they wanted him to reverse engineer it, okay? And anyway, in this documentary, he describes the difference between the aircraft we use and the aircraft that these alien UFOs used. And he said, we basically just blow things out the back and push ourselves forward, right? So we use rocket propulsion where it sends energy out the back, which then forces us...
Slings you forward.
To the forward. He said, but UFOs, they do the opposite. They get everything out of the way that's in front of them where they want to go, and then it pulls them forward. They move matter that's in front of them to where there's nothing that can keep them where they are. It just sucks them forward. And I was like thinking about this, and I was like, man, maybe that's where we need to level up too, where sometimes we're grinding and we're just pushing so hard. We're trying so hard to, use propulsion to bring ourselves forward, when in reality, maybe we just need to say no to more things. Maybe we just need to get things out of the way so it actually pulls us to what we want.
Yeah.
And so no joke, on New Year's, this last New Year's, this was 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
We used to have like a New Year's party, bring, friends over and stuff. But we had just moved. And so we were in a new town, hardly know anybody. So I just said to my wife, let's do something simple this time. And I said, let's just take a piece of paper, each of us and our 4 kids. Let's write something we were grateful for from 2023. Let's write something we want to forgive and forget. And then let's write the one thing we want out of this year. And so we did that. We each wrote it down and we shared it with each other. And I'll be honest, man, 2023 was super challenging. I'd never had so many challenges in my life our remodel alone. I had contractors who bid the job. I paid them like 90% of the contract. They walked after doing 30. And they were just like, oh, well, we underbid the job, so you got what you paid for. Well, that's not how it works, man. But I then talked to a lawyer. He's like, hey, it is what it is. Like, you can try, but you'll probably spend more in legal fees than what you get back. And anyway, long story short, we probably lost that. Plus I had a rogue manager that cost us like $20,000. Because he got some of our rentals shut down because he wasn't answering messages. Just lots and lots of problems where I was like, here I built this magnificent thing.
Yeah.
And just because people refuse to do the things they say they would do, I'm getting screwed over and over. And so like a lot of that year I spent just complaining about this person, that person, this person screwed me, that person
problems
screwed me.
in front of you here.
And so I told my wife, I was like, I mean, I'm telling you those things happen because it's a fact that they happen, but I'm not going to say who it was. I'm not going to, like, you know what? I'm going to just assume they did the best that they could. That's where I'm at.
With where they're at.
With where they're at in their life, that was the best they could offer, and I'm going to take it. I'm going to take it for what it is, and then I'm going to move forward. So anyway, we wrote all these things. We went out. We had a bonfire in our yard. We have a nice, acre and some change, and we built this big bonfire, and everybody read and discussed what their 3 things were, and it was like, all right, let's crumble them up. And we threw them in the fire, and we were like, smoke from that is going to take those to the heavens, to the universe, to God, to whatever it is. And that's what our commitment is this year, And it was so therapeutic for me to just say, hey, you know what? That stuff,
get it out of the way.
It's gone.
Yeah.
New year. And I'm telling you, this year, just we were 20 days in or whatever.
You're already getting opportunities. Yeah.
Like stuff is coming out of, like I had, again, the boutique hotel. I had a client reach out to me. I hadn't heard from them in 4 years, and they wanted me to do this big event with them in Vegas. And then I got,
you got a direct message from Trevor. Real business owners.
And it's like, I've known these guys for like 4 years, and and then I had a guy come out, and he's like, hey, do you need money? I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, I see what you're doing. I see your returns. He's like, I'll loan up to, $500,000 on any deal, or 80% loan to value and 100% of remodel costs. And I'm like, okay. So I was like, now I don't have to use my own money, and then I'm in a very, in fact, I
growth
talked
phase
about
of your life.
Seeking phase.
Yeah.
Where I'm seeking to like remove unnecessary things and just allow the flow of the universe or God, or whatever, to really
you're accepting things for what they are.
Yeah.
And then when it's something bad happening, you're trying to figure out the good in it or find the silver lining, because it is what it is, and complaining about it doesn't make it go away.
Yeah.
So what could you do? Talk to the lawyer and sue? Sure you can. Or you could just address the problem that you have in front of you, do the best with what you got, and move on, because in 10 years, it's probably not going to matter.
No.
Right? Like you're going to be cash flowing from that property, even if you got screwed out of 30, 40, 50 grand. Like it's going to do what it's supposed to do over the long period of time. We just get pulled in into the pain or the frustration of the current moment. That's one thing I like about running, because literally when I disconnect, when I'm in my head and my legs are underneath me moving, and guess what the pain tries to do? It tries to pull me down right into my legs to where I'm thinking about the pain that my legs are experiencing. And I try to cut it off and focus just on my breathing. Either I'm going to focus on my breathing and my posture, or I'm going to focus on the pain. Okay. And the pain will make me stop doing the very thing that I'm trying to do, which is get this running over with. Or I could focus on my breathing and my posture and make it a lot easier. And like, where's your mind?
Right.
Is your mind in the pain or in the suffering of whatever it is that you're currently dealing with or going through? Or is it in the things that you could control to relieve yourself of having to think about the pain or the suffering that you're currently going through? Right?
I'm giggling over here because no joke, and this could be the reason you freaking reached out to me. I don't know. Like 2 days ago, I've told a story to myself my whole life. I'm not a runner.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a sprinter, where I can sprint for short distance. But like long distance, I've just always, nope, your legs are too short. You're, this, you're that, whatever.
Yeah.
And no joke, I was having this argument with myself probably 2 days ago. Is there somebody out there that could help me figure out like how to become a runner? So after this, I might be hitting you up and being like, all right, man.
It's reps.
Yeah, I know.
I wasn't a runner either. 39 days before my 37th birthday, I said, man, I need to do something to prove to myself
37 right now.
that I'm getting better with age, not just financially.
Yeah.
Like I really have to throw myself a curveball and see if I am who I think I am, right? If I'm as badass as this feeling that I have, but yet I don't feel badass. It's kind of a weird, I don't know how to say it. It's like you feel called to do something great and you feel like that you're a badass, but at the exact same time you're at a low spot You're like, well, why do I feel like a low spot? I feel like I should be doing badass shit.
Yeah.
And logically, if you look at on paper, I am.
Yeah.
Right. And so literally, you know, we talked about just putting a date out. Boom.
Yep.
This is what I'm going to do. Your actions change like that.
Yeah.
If you told me right now that you're going to run 30 miles in the next 40 days, my guess is you're going to go home and you'll probably put running shoes on and you're going to get 1 or 2 miles in before you go to bed tonight. The next day, you're going to wake up and the first thing that's going to be on your mind is like, shit, now I only have 39 days before I can run 30 miles.
I better
go see if I can do 3 or 4. Right? So when you make commitments and all-out commitments where there is no way out, what's funny is your actions then truly start to change.
Yeah.
When we half-ass make a commitment, I might try this or I might do that, like, then you're going to find reasons why to not do that thing or to justify why you're not doing that thing. It was literally 39 days. I walked into a room full of people, said, I'm running 37 miles on my 37th birthday. A couple people laughed. I said, cool. I trained 10 times and did it. I wasn't a runner, right? Like at all. But you're not going to be a basketball player the first time you pick up a basketball, right? You're not going to be a great reader in second grade if you actually don't want to read, right? Like if you want to become a great runner, like, and I'm not even, bro, I am so fucking slow when it comes to running. I know it's a long distance.
I bet you'd be me.
But I'm slow. I can't run the furthest.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, nobody will beat my consistency and nobody will beat my discipline. This isn't about running for me. This is a mental game. This is me going against myself, and my body is the medium to my mind.
Yeah.
And if I don't want to get up every single day to run 10 miles, good.
Yeah.
Because that puts me in the driver's seat where my mind knows that when I say I'm going to do something, it will submit to me and I'm going to follow through and do the thing that I said I'm going to do. So I'm getting my mental reps in every single day. So when I face something in business that I just don't want to do, and my mind says, it's all good, you don't need to do that. Guess what? I'm going to face it anyways because it's what I need to do to get the result that I said that I want. And so I started thinking of, when you brought up Goggins, right? I started thinking about some of these guys. I said, why the fuck do they do what they do? It doesn't make any sense.
No.
And I'm like, why would somebody go torture themselves and then the next day wake up and do it again and then do it again and then do it again? And I said, well, of course it doesn't make sense to me. I've never done it.
Right.
So if I've never had the experience that they have, then why would it even make sense to me? It's not going to. But then I asked myself another question. Why would they do it again? If it's so miserable, why would they wake up and do it again? There's something on the other side of that they know about that very few people know about.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see what was on the other side of that, to see if they're really as crazy as they say they are. And in reality, the level of peace and fulfillment that you'll find on that level of difficulty is unlike, it's the amount of pain and discomfort that you'll experience. You'll pin it on high over here. But guess what? When you walk into your house and you're done with that 10 miles every day, the pendulum must swing. It's ecstasy and pleasure.
It's a level of consciousness. You know, I think anytime you do that and you just keep doing the thing that you don't necessarily want to do, but you know what's at the end of it.
Yeah.
You talked about how we love destinations. We love
an end point.
Yeah. And that's the end point, is that reward at the end that only comes to you, though. No one else can feel it.
The cool thing about it is there is an end point, though. And that's what I tell myself when I wake up and get out of bed, when I don't want to do it. It'll all be over in the next hour and 45 minutes.
It's true.
So like we're still selling ourselves an end point.
Yeah.
I was going to the bathroom the other night before I was going to bed, and I was just like, I was feeling overwhelmed because I started thinking about the big picture.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit, my legs are hurting. I'm sore. I'm tired. I'm getting calluses on the back of my foot that are cracking and that's painful. And I started thinking, man, this is like, how am I going to do this for even the next like 6 months or the next year? Like, and like my anxiety kind of kicked up a little bit. And I just told myself right in the moment, you don't have to do it for the next 6 months. You just got to do it tomorrow.
Yep.
That's it. So if I wake up and do it tomorrow, cool. Why am I focusing on something that doesn't even exist yet? Something 6 months from now, when all I have to do is control what I do tomorrow. And then guess what? I wake up the next day and just control what I do that day. And then the next day, and then the next day. I just put the days together, and the weeks, months, and years will figure themselves out, right?
See, and it's staying present, staying not too far ahead.
Yeah.
Not focusing on the past.
Do what you got to do.
I see a lot of guys too, where they'll accomplish things and then they just hang their hat on that.
Yeah.
And they just ride that train.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, you did that 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Like
I noticed that I was doing that after I ran the 37 miles.
Yeah. Well,
I got
good.
I got a dopamine hit for something that I did in the past.
Well, that's why a lot of people too, they say, your brain doesn't know the difference whether you're envisioning it or actually doing it. And so you get a dopamine hit. Like oftentimes they say, don't share your goals unless it's with somebody who's going to keep you accountable.
Yeah.
If you share it with somebody who won't keep you accountable, you'll get a dopamine hit because they'll just be, oh, that's so cool of you,
Yeah.
And it's like,
then you don't have to earn it.
Yeah, then you don't have to. And even if you don't do it, you already got the hit, so who cares? You didn't earn it. You got a freebie. You got a taste.
Yeah.
One time I was deployed, and our commander came in, and he's like, hey, you better be on your shit tonight. He never said stuff like that to me.
Yeah.
Like, I was professional at this point. I've been doing the job for years,
Yeah.
And anyway, so we're doing this mission. We had a couple teams going into a compound, and oftentimes when you're on a mission, it's compartmentalized. So it's on a need to know basis. So part of the time, you don't even know who the target is. You're just like, okay, well, my job is we have assets in the area. We need to make sure that our team doesn't get ambushed or that there's no other forces coming in, something like that. So I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I hear over the comms, we got him, and I'm just like, they don't usually get this excited, because you get a little desensitized. Like, we take people out on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Like, it's not unusual in war to, find somebody, be like, okay, they're here.
Get the intelligence, give it to them, and then they run the mission.
They do their job. But anyway, the teams come back, and they're like, yeah. They're like, did you hear we got him? And I'm like, got who? And they're like, Bin Laden. We got Bin Laden. I was like, that was the mission? I didn't even know that was the mission.
That's probably a good thing, though, so you don't overthink it. You just show up and do your thing.
Doing my job, not even thinking anything of it, And it was just crazy, though, to think, hey, all right, well, I guess I was on that mission.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
that's cool.
But I will tell you this. So I go to a lot of events where there's guys like us that trying to make their way and trying to move and improve themselves. For instance, I had a guy's retreat at one of my rentals in Bryce, and we had like a little fireside, and the guys just opened up. And like one of them was in the middle of a divorce. One of them, he was losing his business. One of them, he's like, hey man, I'm really addicted to porn, and it's become a real problem for me, and just all these men, and some of them are crying, and it's just guys like they're. And we had a guy even like filming the whole experience. And at the end, we pulled all the guys aside and did a one-on-one interview. Like, hey, what was your favorite part? They all said that was their favorite part. The first time that they got to be open and vulnerable with other men and say, hey, look, man, like, it's okay. Like, I'm here. I'll be your wingman. Like, anything you need, just don't give up. Like, keep going,
Yeah.
And that was like really early on when I started Warrior Ethos, where I was like, man, this is a real thing. Like men really they're in a tough place.
So what is Warrior Ethos?
So I started Warrior Ethos because originally it was basically this idea, never surrender the journey. So when you're in the military, the Warrior Ethos is the characteristics or the
spirit.
It's the soul of what drives your decision making.
Yeah.
So it's who you are and why you choose to live the life that you do. Mm-hmm. And so as a warrior, this is something, they used to say that warriors were, or I guess it's defined now as mostly military, or, they participate in war and violent acts and fighting.
Yeah.
If you go back to the history of the warrior, that has nothing to do with it. Warriors were respected for their ability to fight, but what they were mainly honored for was the fact that they served everyone in their community and in their family first. So they were willing to sacrifice themselves to serve their family and their community at a higher level. And And so that's why I call it the warrior ethos. It's like,
Cool.
I want men to go back to that. Let's serve our families and our community first. And yes, if we have to sacrifice ourselves a little bit, we're willing to do it because we're doing it out of love. We're doing it out of honor for those people.
I don't know if it is sacrificing yourself. I think if you don't sacrifice yourself a little bit, that is a form of sacrificing yourself. And what I mean by that is, I was driving with my daughter one time and I said, if I have to make sacrifices that other people aren't willing to make just to impact the lives of other people, then so be it. And I said, but in reality, if I'm becoming a better version of me in the process, is that really a sacrifice?
That's a good point.
I mean, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So you become the sacrifice in order to become
right.
a better version. There's always an exchange, right? And so it's like this sacrifice gives you something. So you're gaining something from it. Otherwise, if you don't do that, you are the sacrifice and you're living a less than life. And then you get to a point where you're in this dark, deep depression. Why? Because you know deep down that you're meant for more, that you could do more, but yet you're not doing anything about it. So therefore, you're the sacrifice.
I think Jordan Peterson says, like, you're going to suffer no matter what.
Yeah.
So why not suffer doing something great?
Might as well get something out of it.
Might as well get something.
Get some yardage.
And offer something from
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
So I think he kind of goes he believes that life is suffering.
Yeah.
With some happiness in between.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm fully there yet. I think maybe it's just because I have a pretty positive outlook on life right now. I wouldn't say he's wrong.
No, he's not wrong at all. I believe in exactly what he's stating.
Yeah.
Right. Because, you go down the traditional path of society, the path that they all want you to go down, and you will find suffering.
Yeah.
Right. Or you could have chosen suffering where you're designing your life and you're creating the exchange for what it is that you want, whether it's a healthier body, better finances. I'm willing to sacrifice this car or this house and not go get into that debt. And I'll go ahead and live over here and drive this for 5 or 10 years so that I can have more later. Right. So there's always there's always suffering. It's whether you choose it or whether it finds you, because you're just not really willing to make the exchange.
Have you ever thought about when we talk about suffering like this, like even when I talk about basic training or, some of the things I've been through, I do it with a smile because even though it was so painful, like I hated it.
Yeah.
I hated it. It was miserable.
If you look back, it's probably some of your best years.
Looking back on it, I get like, it's like a joy in my chest, and it makes me smile.
Sense of pride and fulfillment.
Yeah, and just like, damn, that was cool.
Yeah,
like, we got through it. Can you believe we did that? Like, that's cool.
Yeah,
And so, again, you're talking about like, was it really sacrifice? Was it really that painful? Well, yeah, it was, but that painful comes with something on the back end of it that you recognize as joy.
Exactly,
it's actually joyful. And it sounds like you're a masochist. Like, like I enjoy pain, but in a way you do. Like when I look at, Can't Hurt Me of David Goggins, the dude enjoys pain to an extent, but he not in the moment. Yeah. But when he looks back and he did it, he's like, that's right. Yeah. He's like, can't touch me, can't hurt me. Yeah. That kind of thing. And it's a level of fulfillment, confidence, all these other things.
Well, understanding that you can endure suffering that other people can't brings you a sense of peace and fulfillment.
Well, I don't even know if he
put him in any situation or circumstance. It's not going to be harder than what he does to himself. And so therefore that brings him a sense of peace.
Well, and I wonder, like, does he even really compare to other people?
No.
I don't think he does. No. Why does he have it? He doesn't have to.
He doesn't have to.
He's like,
so why does he do it? Because there's a form
of something
peace and fulfillment and ecstasy that other people will never understand because they will not make the exchange. So people will label him as this, that, or the other.
Crazy.
He's crazy. He's this. He's that. He's mentally unstable. Cool. Why do people do that? it justifies why they are where they are and the actions that they're not taking. So therefore, they don't have to do anything extreme. They don't have to earn their way, right?
Well, and I also want to put out there, though, I don't think that's the life for everybody. I don't
think to that level.
Right.
I don't think to that level.
That's what I'm saying. Because, like, if you look at his life, I think he's had, like, 3 marriages and a divorce and, like, other things where, like, it's like he has this part of his life where he absolutely dominates.
He's the best of the best of the best.
Exactly. But there's these other aspects where there's lots of men who are trying to do this, and this, and they're actually succeeding in keeping all 3. Maybe they're not to the level he is on any one of them.
Yeah.
But at least they're keeping their heads up. They're making things happen. They're making strides and making moves.
If you want to be the best at whatever it is that you do, you're going to be very unbalanced. In his situation, his is very, very unbalanced, right?
You have to, but because
that's the exchange.
That is the exchange. He's like, hey, I don't have time for vacations. I don't have time for a honeymoon.
If you want what he has, you have to make the same exchange that he's made.
Yeah.
And some people they're not cut out for it. They're not built for it. And some people just don't flat out want to do it, which is fine. There's a million other things that you can do to make an exchange to make money.
Yeah.
You don't have to put your body through that type of physical pain or suffering, but you will have to make an exchange if you want to be healthy.
Yeah.
You will have to make a deposit in an area of your life every single day, whether it's 30 minutes, whether it's an hour, whatever you decide what the exchange is. But if you're not doing anything or making any deposits in the areas that you could feel fulfillment, see growth, see financial benefits, just like we leave our household from our families and this, that, people go do that every single day to go try to provide for their family. Like there's an exchange. There's always an exchange. The question is whatever it is that you're exchanging your time, money, energy, or effort worth whatever the outcome's going to be, provided you do it for 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 20 years.
It always blew my mind when I would meet people that were completely satisfied working 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Just chilling. They got their, they have their career, their insurance, their home, their family, and they have no desire to do anything beyond that. And that's why I say I don't understand everybody.
Yeah.
Because my mind would never allow that.
You don't have to.
No.
That's the beautiful thing about it is everybody's different. Yeah.
And the more I'm, getting up there in years, I'm not old, but the older I get and the more I experience, I realize that's what makes life amazing.
Yeah.
There are people who are completely satisfied in chilling.
And
I
want to be a teacher, get 3 months of the year paid in the summertime, and I want to do that for 40 years, and then I want to retire.
I think they were miserable.
And
then I was like, you know what? I don't think their suffering's any worse than mine.
Yeah.
And I'm going balls to the wall, trying to get stuff done.
Yeah.
And, running into all kinds of challenges.
Headaches, problems,
stress, whatever.
Employees leaving because you're too hard on them.
I've said to my wife, probably a dozen times, like, man, maybe I should have just been a chiropractor.
If you haven't second guessed and doubted and said, man, I should have went to school for this or that, I should have.
When I got out of the military, I was in pre-med.
Yeah.
I did pre-med for 2 years. My plan was to go be a doctor.
Yeah.
And then, she got pregnant with number 4 and I was still working full time, doing full-time school. And it was like, we went on a little date to go get some ice cream. And I said, hey, babe, this is going to be our life for the next 12 years.
Yeah.
Because once we finish undergrad, it's med school.
Exchange.
Once med school's done, then it's specialty school. Because I wanted to be a orthopedic surgeon. That was my goal. And then you have your residency. I was like, we will not be done with school until our oldest daughter graduates high school. Wow. You know what she said? I think we'll get a divorce.
Yeah.
That's what she said. And I was like, okay.
Make some adjustments.
Well, I guess we're going somewhere else. And that's actually how I found Brand Makers. When I
went into sales.
Yeah, I went into
started
sales.
Making a couple $100,000 a year. Did good for yourself.
Well, and then I got hungry for something else because I was like, look, I'm a pen salesman.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm selling hats, t-shirts, pens, whatever.
Yeah.
And, that's when my grandparents passed away. And that bed and breakfast that they left behind that they had ran for 27 years, my uncles, it went to the family trust and my uncles were planning to sell it out of the family. And that's why I say my first real estate experience was the wrong reasons. It was all nostalgia and
keeping it in the family.
Keeping it in the family. And I was willing to basically pay whatever. So all of those are not good ideas when you're going into real estate, except for one. I refused to believe I could lose because it was my family's home, and I was just like,
I'm not going to let this go.
Anybody says I'm never going to let this fail, no matter what, never.
That's
you know, and I didn't. You know, COVID hit 3 months in. We thought we were dead in the water, but I refused to believe it. I was like, nope, we're going to keep going. Plan is, just as our plan was set, and we did. By the end of the year, we almost broke even, and then, within a year of that, we had an opportunity to buy another bed and breakfast.
Yeah.
And then we had an opportunity to buy 10 cabins, and then another house, and then a trailer, and then another house, and then a cottage. And then, it just kept going.
Snowballing. Yeah.
And the thing is, like, after that first one, I realized I had completely struck gold in what I call a misfit market. You ever watch the movie Moneyball about the Oakland A's, Brad Pitt?
Where he's like a statistician or something. Yeah.
So it's basically my all-time favorite baseball movie, other than The Sandlot. Sandlot's like classic. But in that movie, he his assistant GM is like, okay, people have a fundamental misunderstanding about the game of baseball. It shouldn't be that we need to go buy players. It's that we need to buy wins. And in order to buy wins, you need to buy runs. And so he's like, there are players out there that get kicked to the wayside for all kinds of biased reasons. Yeah. Such as they have an ugly girlfriend, therefore they have no confidence. Or, they have like, he walks weird. Yeah. Like he walks
that has nothing to do with their performance.
Has nothing to do with the numbers.
Yeah.
And so he's like, if we go to the statistics, it cuts right through that BS.
Can't lie.
And so anyway, that movie really inspired me in a way where I was like, I wonder if this applies to real estate. So I have this background in military intelligence where my job was basically to hunt down people and things that didn't want to be found and analyze tons and tons of data to try and either triangulate positions or track things down, etc. And so I started doing the same thing, and I realized he tells Brad Pitt in the movie, he's like, hey, I need you to picture this as we're like gathering an island of misfit toys. These are players that the league has rejected for one stupid reason or another, but we can afford them because they're cheap because everyone else has rejected them. Yeah. Therefore, I think we have a winning team within our budget. In the beginning of the movie, Brad Pitt says that the problem we're trying to solve is there are rich teams and there are poor teams. Yeah. Then there's 50 feet of crap, and then there's us. When I got into real estate and I got this property out in the middle of nowhere, right? It's a town of less than 500 people. I mean, no growth in the area. It just seems like a dead-end place to invest. But here's what I started analyzing is I started looking at outliers, and I said, okay, let's look at this property. It's close to a national park. How many visitors are coming to that national park every year? It was around 2 million to 4 million visitors every year. That's a lot of freaking people. Then I was like, how many rentals are within an hour drive of this national park? 1,800. It was roughly 94 visitors per room available in there. So even if you're the worst room in town, you're going to book. You're going to book. So if you play to be the best in that town, bro, you're going to freaking cash out like crazy. Wow. So I realized this. And so I was like, oh my gosh, this is a vein of gold. So as I started to analyze, I realized the little town I'm in, there's probably $30 million worth of rentals sitting there that no one has touched. And these people in these small towns, they're raised of a mentality like that's just more poor. Yeah. They don't think about these things, They
don't look for opportunities.
There's a few there that are, and they basically have control of the majority of the stuff. But when I came in and I just started picking, people are like, what the heck? How's he doing this? Yeah. How's he getting all these properties, Yeah. And again, it was just the numbers. It's like, I don't care if I'm borrowing money at 10%, if I'm making a 42% profit margin. Yeah. Why would I give a damn about 10% interest? I don't, because I'm telling you, interest rates are going to come down. Give it 2 years, 3 years. It might even be this year. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. But when it comes down, guess what? I'm going to refi. Yeah. I'm going to pull my cash out. I'm going to have a 3%, 4% interest on that. And I'm going to do it again. I'm going to take that money. I'm going to go get another property. The reason I even went into real estate is I was like, hey, I told my wife, I was like, we need to figure out a retirement plan. I'm a 1099.
Monthly cash flow.
I'm a 1099. So am I going to be selling pens and t-shirts into my 60s and 70s? Like, who's going to want to buy from me, my old wrinkly ass trying to, knock doors or go to trade shows? And so I said, let's start a retirement plan. So we started investing in real estate. And so this is why I actually started the Warrior Ethos program, because I was like, hey, there's other men who have not only struggled, with
mentally,
their persona and their mental state, but they also are probably in a high-performing job where they make good money, but they don't know how to retire. They don't even know where to go. Where do you go? Like if I came to you and I was like, hey, Trevor, if you put $80,000 into this boutique hotel, you'll probably make $35,000 to $40,000 a year. And when we sell 10 years from now, you'll cash out about $400,000.
Yeah.
Why would you say no to that?
I wouldn't.
And that's what I offer guys. I'm like, hey, look, I can either show you how to do it. You build your empire, you go off and do your thing, or come invest with me. I already have a portfolio. I already have all of the things.
So can anybody, like listeners right now, invest with you, or is it are they learning how to invest and so that they can go do it for themselves? Or do they invest directly with you?
So I have like 3 different tiers of programs where they can either just take the online course, they can learn the skill set. That's like my lowest level one. Then the middle one, I will actually coach them, and I will coach them all the way to the point where they get their first rental. Once that's done, then they're on their own. And then the highest one is where you actually not only do you get all the other stuff, plus you get to invest with me on projects. And even if you don't want to invest with me, I will send you what options there are out there from my team. Because I have a team out there like scouting.
Well, you probably get so many opportunities. You're going to pass on some of them too. It's just like, okay, if I have 100 opportunities and I'm only wanting to invest into 5 or 10 or whatever, right? Like you need to, have a bunch of resources available to say, hey, here you go. Do any of you guys want to invest into this? And there's plenty of money to be made in real estate, but you got to know what you're doing, and you got to know the right people that have probably been there, done that. You've already made the mistakes, stuff like that, right?
So it's tens of thousands of dollars worth of mistakes.
That's the whole point, right? Is shortcut it. Shortcut the money that you have to lose or the time that you have to spend in order to get the result that you want, right?
So this deal I just did a couple days ago, I called Angel, my barber. I was like, hey, man.
You want in?
I know this isn't what you were planning on. You guys were thinking of doing like a vacation home that you could use dual use. Like you guys could use it, plus you could rent it out. But look, this is a 5-room motel. It's gonna gross probably $250K a year. If you own 35% of it, 35%. If we, I'm planning
80 grand, 85 grand. Yeah.
You're going to make, I think they'll make like 50 to 60, but I'm like, that is an entire salary for the rest of your life if we don't sell. And then once we sell,
you have equity, make more money.
Got a bunch of money. Like, cause it should sell, like if we wait 5-10 years, that property should sell for 1.5 million. And they own 35%. That's a huge cash out. And guess what they had to put in? 70K. That's it. 70K.
How do people connect with you if they want to talk to you about coaching, mentoring, investing? Like where would somebody go?
So you can go to warriorethoslife.com. That's the first place to stop. I got a little video on there that gives you kind of a free introduction to what I do. And then my Calendly is on there, so you can set a 30-minute call.
What about social media?
Social media at Warrior Ethos Life, or just on Facebook, Austin LeFevre. So just reach out to me. And honestly, most people...
And he's got badass backpacks.
I do have backpacks, We also have some concealed carry backpacks that we just launched this last month. We actually even have diaper bags for women too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But some people have been concerned about that because kids get into the diaper bag for snacks and this. And I just tell them, just don't keep one in the chamber because it's even hard for an adult to rack it. So, anyway, but if you're a concealed carry holder, you're usually very careful and you know how to properly store your stuff. So anyway.
Dude, no, man, I appreciate you coming down, dude, and driving a couple hours to be on the show and chopping it up with me. If you enjoyed today's episode, hit them up if you're in the industry or looking for coaching in the industry. Other than that, rate and review the show. Keep kicking ass. We'll see you next week.